everyone, it's me, Chloe Bluebird Mustooch, the illustrator of the Siha Tooskin series. And today, we are going to read The Best Medicine, just a little bit of it. And this is
Gnuza.
Alright. Magashin and Mitashin had taught him that the plants also have a spirit, and that they are to be treated with great respect, as they are giving up their lives on Inamakuche to help us to live in a good and healthy way. Paul recalled the words from his parents as he had prepared for the visit to his grandparents. We don't take the medicines for granted or disrespect them, or they may not help us when we need them the most. Paul was so glad he had paid attention and remembered to be humble and respectful the whole time that he was gathering medicine with his grandparents. He had only been given the earliest understanding in the summer, and Paul knew that there was much more for him to learn in the years to come, so he was grateful for Magushin's words to him now.
Alright, so for the activity, here are the supplies that you're going to need. And it's watercolor, a pencil, a pen, some watercolor paper, or any thicker cardstock paper will work. This is my pan watercolors. What we're going to make is this simple watercolor illustration of a plant. So you can pick whatever plant you want. And what I did was I printed it out, and then we're going to do a tracing technique, which is kind of the oldest trick in the book. But here I am starting with the watercolor first. So you do the watercolor background, and it's really easy. You just need a little bit of water, and then I'm using pan watercolors. There are other different types too, but I find this one the easiest to use. And all I'm doing for technique in terms of that is just a little squiggly, like football shapes kind of. You don't need to be accurate for this at all. You just want to have a nice lighter background. And what I'm doing is I'm sticking to relatively the same colors. So I'm sticking to greens in different tones, and then I add in some blue a little bit later on. For the watercolor brush that I'm using, it's just you want something that's soft tipped, and a little bit thicker. You don't want one too small because then it'll take you too long. With this watercolor technique, what I'm doing is I'm starting off lighter, and then I just kind of you work in the darker colors later on too. And here you can also put in a lot of water, a little bit more water to get the drip effect if you'd like that. And here I'm going in with a little bit darker, more concentrated color. And it blends in very easily when you use a lot of water. So you always have to make sure to have a good amount of water on there so that it disperses evenly. I'm keeping the watercolor central to the page, just so that it looks nice and neat and just complete. But you can go pretty wild with your background too if you want. Just remember to keep it quite light so that it has a contrast between the dark plant illustration that we're going to use in the future. This is where I added a little bit of blue just to get some darker in there. And then from there on, I'm going to set this aside just to let it dry a bit, because when you try and use your marker on the wet paint, well, the wet watercolor, it's going to bleed into the wet part. So you're going to want to make sure that it's quite dry. Okay, here I am just kind of blending the edges a little bit because I didn't want any harsh edges around the circumference. So I'm just going in lightly with some water just to blend it out. Okay, so now we're going to set that aside, and then the next thing that we're going to do is have your printed picture of your whatever plant you want to use. And just make sure it's a simple one though. A simple line art type of picture. And then we're going to trace it. So I'll show you how. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. And what you need is a pencil, or even a pastel will work. Something that will transfer easily. Pastel works best, but here I'm just going to use this thick pencil that I have. And you just want to put it on the side and hold it kind of, don't hold it like a pencil, hold it a little bit more flat so that you get more surface area from your pencil. And then you scribble all over. You want to make sure it's all full, because you can see your drawing, well, your illustration through the other side of the page. You want to make sure you cover all of that area. You just put on that pencil, just layer it on. Okay, so once you're complete all of that, once you're pretty sure you got all of it, you get your dried watercolor drawing, and then you're going to place it the right side up. You could tape this down too, just to make sure that it doesn't move. I would recommend that actually. But with me, what I did is I just held it with my hand, with my other hand. So you're going to take a pen, something hard point. So I just have this orange pen. Because if you use a really sharp pencil, it's going to scratch through the paper. You don't really want that. When you do this, you're adding pressure to the pencil that you did underneath this page, so that it'll transfer very lightly though. You can barely see it here, but in real life, it is a light little pencil tracing. So that's why you kind of do want to press hard with your pen, but you don't want to break the paper. So I just go through and I do the main stems, and then I'll do the little branches. This is a piece of cedar, by the way, that I chose as my drawing. Okay, so once you're done all that, you can reveal the light pencil sketch now. It's a light tracing of your plant. Now from here, what I do is I'm going to use a marker, something black. I'm just going to use this fine tipped Sharpie marker. And then I'm just going to go through the initial stem of my plant, and then you can just thicken it up as you go. And since it's a plant, you don't have to be too accurate with your line work, because that just adds to how natural the plant is, how natural the little branches are. I also have my printed picture of the drawing right beside me, which I'm also looking at as I go, just to help guide me. Okay, so I have the initial stems drawn. Now we go in and we do all the little tiny branch pieces. On this part, I did kind of take my time. Don't be afraid to do that. Alright, here's me jumping more towards the end of the drawing on the last few branches here. What my technique that I ended up doing is I left the insides of the branches a little bit open as well, so you can see the watercolor through them just a little bit. It doesn't need to be perfect, like I said, because this type of plant that I chose is one that is quite rough, and if it was 100% clean and smooth, it wouldn't look right. And then from here, I'm just thickening the main stem. And then I think we are almost done. All right, good job. So here's my end result. You see how easy it is? I encourage everyone to try it. It's not too difficult. Thank you. Bye.